business done, so that's great. We have our consent agenda. Any additions or changes or any such? Nope. Great, then I would entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to accept the consent agenda.
Great.
Seconded.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, great. So on to the Walter variance request. Presumably, commissioners, you've looked this over. I think it was in our packet maybe 2 months ago. I can't quite remember. So hopefully you've had plenty of time to review it and have a look at it. Yeah, did you guys have any thoughts right away? Or any questions? I assume Mr. Walter is here. He is.
Did we receive any comments from the public?
We received one letter. You probably saw that
I
from
saw
North
that one. Is
House,
that
but
the
there were
only-
no
That's what we
comments
got.
from the direct
Okay.
direct neighbors.
Maybe they'd like to get some now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Wow,
That's what I'd
very
love to
good.
hear.
I'm a direct neighbor to the north.
Oh, okay, great. That's
Step up
awesome.
to the-
Well, can you come up to the mic, yeah, and say who you are, and we'll hear what you have to say.
I'm John Scully.
Yeah.
I'm directly to the north of this property.
Okay.
And right before I bought my property,
Mm-hmm.
the corner lot, the Larson, so it'd be west of this,
Okay.
on the corner.
Is it blue? Is that right? I remember it. Yeah.
That was sold,
Okay.
didn't even know about a different change in owner, and then they started building on it. That variance was already done probably right before I bought mine, and
Okay.
it stayed with from one owner to the next. When he built his, being close to me, he tried to see about buying land to make, because he's only got 2 lots. This here that we're talking about is 3 lots next to it.
Okay.
I realize it's an odd shape, it's not square, but so is the one west of it.
Sure.
My worry is, and I had discussed it with this, I just met him the other day,
Okay.
as we were trying to walk around it, is I take all my snow off of driveway, roofs, everything, and put it towards that property.
You know, going south there.
My
okay.
snow blower is a 21 horse tractor with a blower, and it does throw rocks.
Okay.
And luckily, the neighbor to my south right now has no windows on that house on that side. And he probably got a couple of dents in the siding whether I wanted to have that happen or not. I
Okay.
thought I'd make it aware of that the closer he gets to me, the more concerned I am about that.
Okay.
And if he's got windows on that side or not, I don't know what he's planning on building. The other is, luckily was the phone line. They had it temporary right to his yard. He didn't even know about it, or that property. And we got a hold of CenturyLink and had it rerouted for temporary to get it out of the way of his equipment.
Okay.
Or I'd have my phone all chopped up right now.
Okay.
That's my main concern, is that just because one had a variance, and it was before I bought, and I'm trying to talk him into at least coming down to the southernmost where he can build, so that instead of, let's say, 10 feet from the property line, he ends up 15, 20 out of that 25. Give a little more buffer zone. Sure, there are some trees and bushes there, but that doesn't stop all the rocks and, you know.
Okay.
And I've also got some pretty good sized walk, but once I moved the snow, it's got rocks in it. So then I go to blow it, and of course, I don't even know there's rocks flying. And
Yeah,
they do
yeah.
some damage,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
So anyways, that's my main concern, is why, you know, maybe look into this a little farther, because I'm just now finding out that the first paperwork when I was here on the 3rd about other issues, and it was not brought up. This wasn't. I was gonna talk to him, then never met him. He wasn't here.
Okay.
And that's when I first learned about it, and that was gonna be a different shaped building. Now I hear just now, well, right as you build it, that
Yeah.
he's changing what's gonna be put there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your concerns and
Okay.
being neighborly and all that. That's great. Thank you.
Trying, I mean, you know, I don't.
Oh, no, for sure.
I don't wanna start taking windows out when it's 20 below. I don't think he'd like that.
No, indeed. All right. Thank you. And are you here for same?
To make a comment, and I have hand up.
I can't help myself, I gotta have a visual.
Oh, okay.
Me too,
Gotcha.
thank you.
It's already anyways.
All right,
Thank you.
we'll take it. Thank
It's on
you.
the county website. So my name is Jean Marie Model. I've lived in Grand Marais for 33 years now. That's
Okay.
my life. I have lived that whole time near the courthouse. And just this week, actually, one of my neighbors, a young family with 2 little boys, is leaving the neighborhood because they couldn't find affordable housing in Cook County. They're moving to Lake County.
Okay.
And I think they would have appreciated having the opportunity to consider a property such as Dave is proposing here, you know, as a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am here to speak in support of Dave's request for the variance. I gave you the satellite image. It's from the county website. I marked north on the top, south on the bottom. You can see the bold outline as Dave's property. The star on the adjacent property marks the site of a new home that was built in recent years, the big blue box.
Yeah.
And so, because the photo is older than the new home. But with that view, what I like about that view is you can see what a nice little neighborhood is being created right on the edge of the community service zone with the highway department and the bus garages. And that Dave's proposed home just tucks right in there. He'll have a home north, south, east, west, and and all 4 directions. He'll be surrounded by other homes. There's a lot of trees on Dave's property, and he hopes to keep as many trees as possible. I think that'll help create privacy for his property and screening for his neighbors. And so I just, I think this is this is what Grand Marais needs. And I would like you to support his request.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Yep, thank you. Okay, well, hearing those comments, would you like to also address?
Nothing I really have to say.
Okay, that's fair.
Unless you have questions on me.
No, unless
Glad to
commissioners, do you
respond.
have questions?
I do.
I
I
do
would
too.
appreciate it if you
Yes.
could.
All right, yeah, have a seat and say who you are.
Dave Walter, the applicant for this variance.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm just curious, why you thought about a rear setback variance instead of a front yard setback variance when the neighbor is closer to the road?
More buffer between the street and the house, and then the surrounding properties.
Okay,
Just keep as many trees as possible, keep that green in front to kind of make it not secluded, but more setback. I'm not sure. Instead of right in the street or closer to the street, have it more towards the back of the lot.
so I'm just thinking now with that your neighbor saying
Sure,
that he has
yeah.
concerns, if there is a way to come forward some amount.
Absolutely, of course, yeah.
I mean, like, instead of a 10-foot setback that you're requesting, would 20 work for you? Would it still work with this plan? But then you need the front yard setback, so I don't know how that works, and that would be a question for our administrator.
although I
If it's two
think-
variances then,
wait a
or
minute.
do we just say it that way?
I
Or-
think it would be too difficult to talk about a front yard setback variance when we didn't advertise that to the
Okay.
neighborhood.
So that's where I
So-
need to know,
So, okay.
if,
so-
where we can fall there.
All right.
And my next question is about access to the house and the driveway. Where do you envision this driveway entering from the street?
Very close to centered in that lot.
Centered, okay.
I don't know exact footage on either side, but I put stakes out for the contractor, and it's pretty close to centered.
Okay, I saw that, but I
No, I
didn't know
didn't.
if that would.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did go walking through there. Yeah, and I mean, hearing the comments of your neighbor, that I was following on what Tracy was saying, or Stacy was saying with that, wondering if, you know, is there some distance that you could, I mean, if we do 15, does that put us off from the front setback?
You know, let me do some math. I haven't done this to answer your question.
Yeah, let's see.
Have to-
No, it seems like if we did do
Okay, if I'm seeing this right, if I set the house back 14 feet from the back line,
Yeah.
that would put the front of the house at the front 25-foot variance. Does that make sense? Did I
Yeah,
say that?
that's kind of what I was coming up
Mhm.
with too. So
Yeah,
that
well, I was
works.
kind of, when John was talking and then with your questions, let me just do the math again, just to be sure I've got that right.
Yeah, I mean, it
That's
looks,
what
I mean,
came up with as well.
You too?
yeah, okay, well, there we go.
So, but that's
14 feet, that's
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
14-foot rear setback would give a 25-foot setback in the front.
Which is the setback.
Right, given the length of the house that it is now.
All right. And that really is, I mean, is the shape of the house that I'm seeing here isn't the shape that it's going to be, or is it, does it jut out like that? You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't.
Like how it comes out like that?
Yeah,
Does it
there's a-
actually do that?
Yep, it does.
Okay.
There's a short, sort of a sunroom area in the front.
Okay.
Do you know the house? Do
I
you-
mean, I do, but.
Yeah, well, you can,
Visualizing.
right now there's a picture window
Yeah,
and it juts out to the north,
okay.
yeah.
Are there windows on that back side of the house that he's concerned about?
There's a dormer, which is basically the second floor, and that's got windows.
Mm.
I don't know about the back windows on the first floor, but I'm going to be reconfiguring this entirely. Where the windows now, where the doors are,
Okay.
is irrelevant.
Okay.
My plan is to gut it and redo the whole structure, so there's no,
It doesn't have to stay as it
No,
is your point?
no.
Okay.
Right.
so, but to get to your point though, I haven't planned out where windows are going to go,
Mhm.
in, with the reconfiguration. And to John's point, I don't know, I don't have any plans for or not for windows in the back there. I
Okay.
hadn't designed that part of it.
Well, okay. I mean, this seems like,
Did you come up with 10 feet for any specific reason? Did you have plans for that 10 feet or?
No, I was looking to maximize space to the south and to the west, for just space for future, for a garage, basically. So, and the neighbor to the west has a 10-foot setback, so I figured go to that line, the same line as they went to, just out of sort of conformity or
yeah.
no particular reason. It was arbitrary in that way.
Yeah.
Got it.
But that would give the most space in the front for a garage.
Yeah.
Well, given
Okay.
his concerns and the fact that you're going to be redesigning, I mean, does it make sense to you to bring it up to 14 feet, or are you not concerned?
It's arbitrary.
Okay.
Honestly, nothing is set in stone about this. The hard part is the depth of the lot, the 18 feet, given 25-foot front and rear,
Mhm.
there's a very narrow space of land. So
Yeah.
if I can get past that constraint, after that's arbitrary.
Mm.
Okay.
So I can work with windows, I can work with space on the lot.
Mhm.
If it pushed forward, that's fine. Maybe no garage, maybe, I don't know.
Okay. Well, I mean, so long as you're comfortable and
Yeah.
and you're aware of the risks.
Sure.
Yeah, no, and
But we've
that's what I
talked-
was mentioning
Yeah.
to him was,
Yeah.
as far as, that 10
Right.
foot is a little, and the other neighbor to the west, I'm not blowing snow there, I'm
Mhm.
pushing snow there. So,
Mhm.
Right.
okay, when I start blowing snow there, it's at an angle, so luckily he has no windows on the other side of the house.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I see no reason for us. I see no reason for us to change the 10 feet if you are aware of the risks and are comfortable with it. I see no reason to extend it to 14.
I don't know. I mean, I thought 14 was striking me as a compromise number. Because that, it's not quite 15, but it's 14, and if
Yeah,
it's
no,
all the
that-
same to you, and,
That sounds good to me, I mean, a lot better than 10,
yeah,
you know.
I don't
was
know.
hoping for
That,
15, you talked that possibility.
what do you think, Stace?
Well, I agree. There's an in-between here, but we spent a lot of time,
I
We-
knew you were going to say that.
deciding we need these feet, and I had advocated for less feet at one point, but the compromise. So, I'd feel better saying 14 feet because I do want to see a house there.
Yeah,
I think it's a
absolutely.
great
Oh, yeah,
thing, and
I
that
wanna see a house.
having that home be a home again.
Yeah, that's
That's,
true.
I was pretty excited when I found out which home you were going to use. So I would like to figure out a way to make this work compromising.
All right. So do we have a motion then?
I'll make a motion to approve a variance for 14 feet rear,
All right.
how do I word that?
That's,
Rear setback.
We're gonna set back 14 feet.
I'll
Perfect.
second it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And passes. Great.
there'll be an official action on that at the council meeting next week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys.
Mhm.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. And now, I was hoping maybe at least Ben would be here and Anton, but since they're not, we're just gonna go ahead.
Right, well, this is
Huh.
just an introductory conversation anyway, there's really no way to make headway on these issues tonight.
Sure, but I was hoping we could at least prioritize what we see as the glaring one, which,
And the nice thing is that the three of you can.
and we will. Absolutely. I guess I'm just gonna throw it out there, like, I feel like the lot fill issue related to height is really, stands out to me as something that I feel like we should deal with first. I mean, I agree that all these things we'll get to, but I feel like that was one I would like to see us address soonly. We get lots of requests for height variance, and we want to make sure that we have a very clear, line about that, because I know that, people have brought up Todd's place, and I swear to God, we went over the fill issue whenever that was, 6 years ago, or whatever it was. But maybe we didn't, and maybe we didn't clarify what that situation is. I mean, obviously, we don't have an ordinance.
Oh, we
that-
clarified,
Well, I
that's
thought-
perfectly legal.
Okay, so that's what we came to.
Yeah, our ordinance doesn't put any limits on how much fill can be brought on a piece of property. It triggers a
But-
need for erosion control plan if you bring a certain amount.
Right, and I guess what we're looking for, or what I'm thinking we're looking for is like as much as is necessary kind of rule that says, not so that you can get an extra 2 feet or whatever, but no, what do you need to build your place? That's it. And I don't know if that's an easy number to find or if it's easy to define, but that's kind of what I'm interested
Yeah,
in.
and I'm curious as to what other places have done about this issue. I suspect not a lot, and I think that we're particularly sensitive to height in a way that communities that aren't on a slope overlooking Lake Superior probably aren't.
Right.
It's a little more random, the height issue in other communities, whereas here it's pretty well defined,
Yeah,
what the views are of and from.
yeah.
I also think, though, there's very few properties in town historically that were built that didn't have some sort of fill as a part of the construction.
Right.
So we're kind of drawing a line in the sand in an arbitrary place too. So it'll be interesting to see how we make that work to still allow people to turn
I mean-
property into usable property.
Yeah.
And yet try and address what we think the issue is. I'd kind of like to start from there. What's the problem that we're trying to solve here? Because clearly it's not people bringing in fill.
No.
We don't think that's a problem. It's something else. It's something particular about it. And we need to make sure that we know exactly what that is that we're trying to solve before we go looking for a solution.
Well, don't we know? I mean, we don't
Because
want
I'm
people
new.
bringing it in to, goose up the height. I mean,
Just to
that-
clarify, we're talking about adding dirt to a lot
Yes.
to then build on,
Yep.
correct?
Yeah,
That's what we mean.
that's what we mean.
Okay. What is the current ordinance?
There's
On
no limits to that
There's
currently.
no limits.
No,
Okay. So you can just build a little mountain and then put a house on top of it.
you sure can.
Okay.
And it's been done.
and it's been done,
Well, not
apparently.
really. I mean, a really little mountain.
What if I wanted to build a small mountain and then build my house inside the mountain?
That is
We better make sure that when we pass this law,
that we make sure.
Yeah, and maybe you want to have one of those underground
I
houses
I
for
just want to live
efficiency, yeah.
in a dwarf house. Is that so much to ask of
No,
Grand
it's
Marais?
not.
Absolutely not.
So, we can short circuit this conversation real easy too, and just say, very simply, what we want to do is measure height from what's there right now in some kind of,
So use the math that we already have in the ordinance
Yeah.
to determine the height
and
say
and,
that's your height.
the tricky part would then be figure out how to deal with the fill issue from just a conversation about fill, because we'd have to start monitoring that. 'Cause, I mean,
Well,
who knows
I'd
what-
like to return to your original point on identifying the problem.
Yeah.
What is the problem that my fellow commissioners might see?
Well, we've seen it apparently where people have built up their height
To get a better view, I'm
just to
guessing.
get a better view.
Yes.
And it had
Okay.
nothing to do with need. It was just
Right. And what problem arose from them doing
because,
that?
of course, when you do that, you're blocking somebody else's view shed.
Right.
So that was the issue.
I mean, obviously, if there's no one behind you, this isn't as much of a problem. Could we not create an ordinance basically saying it needs to be reviewed prior to being done? Just so, so we can take it on a case-by-case basis rather than setting some arbitrary number.
I'd rather set the arbitrary and have people come to us when they actually have a request, just like we do now for a variance.
The tricky part about it being reviewed is when is the review done? So what if I bought the property now and added a little bit of fill to it for the next 10 years and then put a 35-foot building on top of that after my 15 feet of fill was done being added? Like, which of the events that occurred triggered the review? When do we start measuring? How do we keep track? It's honestly kind of boggles my mind how we would try to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I believe the county has a grade and fill permit. You can't just do, I don't know how I'm not on that planning commission, but, where if you want to bring in fill, you have to get a permit
You
for
do.
that.
And the issue that they are trying to address is erosion control.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And
it's not
that's-
height. Once you're done with the grading and filling, then you get to build your buildings on top of it. So I don't think they have any controls either that really address the height issue. And all of our language about grading and filling is about erosion control as well, and we just have less of it than the county does.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, we'll have to do a little research on this and see what our options are, but I think it's still important for the commission to be able to say pretty clearly what is the outcome they don't like right now. What are we trying to solve for? And is it as simple as we feel like people are cheating the system?
Could we potentially simply say that you can fill up to the highest point currently existing on your property, and anything higher than that would require review?
We could say that, and it would definitely not have affected the most egregious case that people like to bring up about this.
Right.
Because
That's true.
he didn't get anywhere near the top of his property with his fill.
Right.
Where is this, by the way? So
This
I.
is the three
The Three Sisters. or
tall condo buildings on the west side of 4th Avenue. At the,
Oh,
Yes.
something? Yeah,
those.
coming up from the trout there.
Oh, the ones, the wooden ones? Or
Yeah.
at least it looks like one. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to take a better look at their yard, I guess.
I still like arbitrary. I think it makes more sense just to say like, okay, whatever that height is the height. You want to go further than that, you get a variance. And that's that.
Right.
Well, I
But
mean,
it's,
then-
again, when you separate the filling in the building with a little time,
Yeah.
then how do you know what the height is?
Right.
I see what you're saying. So like if they bought it 1 year, next year they build.
Well, I just feel like if we do that, then people are just going to build on the highest point in their property. If they're really, if they really feel like the height is that important to them.
And they would be doing that anyway, right? I
Right.
mean, if you're trying to build the tallest.
But at least this
spot.
gives them a little, what I suggested gives them a little more flexibility as to where on the property they put the building. I suppose. I don't know. Do we even care?
That,
I'm not sure.
we have to figure that part out too.
Yeah.
Do we really care?
Yeah.
Because it's not universal that people had a problem with this. It's just, there's some sense of what happened that wasn't right, but we really need to define it more.
Mhm.
What part wasn't right, and decide if that's true, because maybe it's not.
Hmm.
We're planning on doing it here on this property. Like this building that, as it sits right now, needs to be higher, and so we're going to be building it higher than it currently is. Just, we're not gonna build it 30 feet tall, so it doesn't hit that height limit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's more of a question of how we define height that needs to be addressed, and not, we don't worry about the fill. Because what's the height limit all about anyway?
Right.
It's about how it fits in the neighborhood, it's about how it blocks views. Maybe we need to define it that way instead.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What is the current height limit?
For
For
most of
buildings?
town, it's 35 feet.
35.
And it's measured from the average height of the piece of property the building is sitting on after.
The
fill,
average height.
If it
Okay.
is. But if it's on a slope, it's the average of the height. And then the average of the roof line as well, if it's a sloped roof.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Top of the list, huh?
Did you put that one on this list?
I
I'd like
did
to
not.
know.
Tracy did.
Okay.
So.
I'd like to know more about why some of these others got.
Well, let's take the
Added
mobile
here.
food vendors off the list, shall we? Because we got that one.
Yeah,
that.
I would
Yeah.
agree. Because that, I was going to say, like, I don't know why that's here. I'm not sure that's us.
Tracy asked for all of these issues to be discussed by you.
Okay.
That's where they all came from. And the parking requirement for lodging accommodations was just thought about recently by you, but also by the council when we realized that with the bakery conversation that they're asking for residential use of this and we require a parking space, but if they don't use it residentially, we actually don't require any parking for them or anyone else that has less than 10 units of rental downtown. So like the Mayhew, for instance, has 6 units, and we don't require them to have any off-street parking. So
Yeah.
that does create complications. I mean, for them it does, for us it does, particularly in the wintertime. But it's also pretty common to have downtown areas not have parking requirements for anything. So we just have to decide, is this creating issues that need to be addressed, and how do we want to do it? And the dumpster requirements for businesses.
I think she just was talking about shielding. isn't
Well,
it?
she was, but I think there was more to it than that. So we have some language that talks about screening of dumpsters, but it's not great. It needs to be better. But the other issue is we don't have any setback requirements in the downtown area. And so everything that's not building isn't always thought about when the building plan is made,
Mhm.
like the Mayhew building. And then where do they put their dumpster? Because they've used every square inch of that piece of property for the productive use of the thing that they actually want to do, which is great,
Mhm.
but they need to have a dumpster somewhere too.
Right.
And so I think that dumpster is kind of the example of all things, propane tank and, business use needs that aren't always thought of up front and that we don't necessarily require.
I see. So it's not really the screening.
But it's
having-
dumpsters, yeah.
It's, yeah, okay, gotcha, yeah. So having space for these things, you're gonna say?
So when we approved the bakery, we didn't ask about a dumpster.
No?
Should we have? Maybe that's for downtown businesses. We should, when you,
You have now hit upon the exact question that Tracy is asking.
okay? So I would say that would be kind of a thing that maybe it should be on our radar to make sure that whoever's developing that parcel, have you thought about where you're gonna put your propane tank? And you need to provide a spot for that, maybe.
Yeah. I'm guessing they
Yeah.
probably remember propane, but they're probably not remembering the garbage.
Well, it depends, honestly.
Okay.
And we try to have those conversations at an administrative level, but we don't always know what they're really doing. Because our ordinance doesn't require that depth of conversation. We just need to know, does it meet zoning requirements and does setbacks and height and use? And we might not know exactly what they're intending, like, are
Yeah.
you gonna have propane appliances or not? I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah.
So maybe we need, our ordinance needs to be updated to say there needs to be a
Space-
utility,
Space for,
yeah, site
I-
plan or whatever.
I'm guessing that we'll be able to find some very useful examples of stuff like this.
Okay.
Some kind of development checklist sort of thing, where if you're building in a commercial area that doesn't have setbacks, you just need to provide a few more items than we're asking for right now.
That moves to the top of my list. It's on the easiest.
Okay. Well, I'm fine with that, yeah. Yeah, I mean, for sure, that, now that I understand more about what you meant by dumpster, that makes more sense to me.
Okay, so dumpster top of the list. What's next?
Easy. I still think Phil should be on there somewhere.
I'm okay with it being on the list,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
You
with
know,
the-
I'd like to think about what the options might be.
Okay,
Don't know that we'll come up with a
yeah.
good answer, but,
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's addressing that concern of the community, you know. And at least having something to point to, like, hey, you know, here's how we are attempting, even if it's not perfect, to solve this issue.
What, is it a concern of the community?
Well, it seems to.
Some community members expressed concern
Okay,
about it.
so there's a vocal minority, is that what
I
we're
don't know.
saying? Okay.
That's my point. I don't think we know.
Okay.
Well, what complaints did we receive and in what numbers?
Handful,
A handful?
yeah.
well, it depends on if there were official complaints or were they on the street.
Yeah,
And there's
Complaints.
probably quite a bit of that.
I received more.
Yeah.
right.
How do we quantify
It's
that?
partly why I'm here sitting at this table today.
And I'm not saying that if there's only 3, you don't do something about it.
Mhm.
I'm just saying it's not necessarily a community concern. It's a concern that was brought to you that you think should be addressed. It's just
Gotcha.
a different way to talk about it.
Okay. Well, so garbage, fair enough. The parking requirement, that would be interesting to address. Because I see that, it kind of makes sense to me that it would be same, you know, between residential and daily rental. That the-
So do we have issues with parking besides?
Well,
um,
do we?
I know, through the highway department in the winter, they're not happy with the parking on the streets.
Right.
So does that mean we should be enforcing our parking ordinance?
Well,
Would that solve some of this problem?
you mean if someone's parked illegally, should we tow them?
Yes.
Would it solve some of this problem?
Yes.
Absolutely, it would
Okay.
solve some of this problem. It would create some other problems at the same time.
Yeah.
And now, if I'm a business owner who, part of my business is creating a demand for parking at night when it's not legal to do so in the downtown, I'm gonna think about how to provide that service to my customers, like the Mayhew did.
Mm-hmm.
So the market could potentially deal with this issue, not just
Hmm.
the ordinance. It's the same thing about any other business downtown where we're not requiring them to build parking, but they need it for their business, and if they need more than is available, maybe it is in their interest to add some, and you can see some places do. And most places choose not to because it's not a good use of their resources. And we built all this parking downtown, like most of the time, we're fine with it being used. It's just a few times when we really would prefer they don't, like when we're plowing snow.
Right.
And there have been cars parked downtown while we're plowing snow, sure. And I don't know that we've ever had to have anybody towed. But they're in the way, and they might get plowed in a little bit.
Yeah, can we allow the plow drivers to ding them a little bit? Is that, they can't, sorry. All
They got a
right,
hard enough job, and we don't
Right.
make it easy for them, right? We build a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff in their way. They think they'd really prefer if everything was just kind of flat and open, because they've got a giant piece of equipment that they're trying to navigate through bad conditions. And yeah, if people weren't parked downtown, it's better. The ordinance is only one tool to deal with that. The towing is only one tool to deal with that. We also just try to communicate. That's what we try to do the most, but
Yeah.
it doesn't always work. And it may come to that too, the towing.
yeah. Well, I don't
For the
know.
number of folks though that are operating rental businesses, it's not like we got 30 cars parked on the streets downtown all the time.
Right,
I think it's in pretty good shape that way.
yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things you hear, like parking, and people talk about, but, you know, I mean, the only thought I was having is just sort of equity, you know, between the people who are living downtown and the people who are nightly rental downtown. I'm thinking like, well, they have to have a parking, but they don't. It just seem like, what? Doesn't make sense. If we're requiring the one, why won't we require the other? Not sure. But that is what it is.
And we did look at this issue in some depth when we were looking at lodging uses downtown 5-6 years ago,
Yeah.
and looked at other cities' examples of what they did about this. And it's all over the gamut, right? Just
Okay.
like with any other issue. And there's really not a best practice that says you have to require parking. As a matter of fact, I think it's probably closer to the opposite. The best practice is more like you don't zone parking requirements. So we might be on our own on this one, and we have to find our own comfort level.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Is that number 2 or number 3 on your list?
What's one
That's at the
again?
bottom of my list.
Dumpsters, okay.
Dumpsters.
Dumpsters,
So,
lot fill,
dumpsters.
parking. That's the order?
Dumpsters, lot fill, parking. So you don't care about the parking? I'm just curious.
I don't think I am. I don't
Okay.
know that there's a problem caused by lodging accommodations.
I gotcha.
I don't know that,
Well,
I think,
we'll help you find out the answer to that
Okay.
by talking to the people doing the maintenance and having them come in here
yes, that's,
Fair enough.
and see what kind of data we've got.
yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah. All right, very good. Lot filled down. But something to think about. All right.
Is that all we have to do with that?
Yeah, so we'll have
Believe
dumpster
that's-
requirements for businesses on the next month's agenda
Great,
with some
Alright.
examples to look at.
awesome.
Oh, good, we're back to fun work again.
Oh, isn't that great?
All right, well, thanks, everyone.